Coming to you live from the Mistopheles Studios, it's Dark Fringe Radio.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
You're the disease, and I'm the cure. That is power.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us on another edition of Dark Fringe Radio. And of course, I am Will Martinez, your host, and my co-host is always Mr. Jay Galosi himself. How are you, Jay?
Fantastic. I thank you for the extra flavor and
yeah.
roll. And,
I had to do all that, with that Bruce Buffer
flourish
too.
The flourish.
All I was missing was the Bruce Buffer jacket, the glitter jacket. That was it.
He's going cuckoo with those.
Listen,
jackets.
it's getting out of hand, isn't it? The last
Seriously.
review, it was like a blue sequence, like fucking glitter jacket. What was up with that?
He looks like Liberace's farts.
Oh, but you know what? He's tough as nails. From what I heard, I guess he got into a fight with Frank Trigg.
Buffers.
Yeah, in the elevator between him and Frank Trigg, and I guess Dana White was in the elevator at the same time, and things got kind of out of hand. And
you don't want that.
Yeah, of course, Frank Trigg got the better of him, but still, he put up a fight.
Fucking Frank Trigg.
Yeah,
Frank Trigg almost got the better of Matt Hughes.
Exactly.
And then he got run across the octagon and slammed for his trouble.
Too bad for Twinkle Toes.
One of my all-time favorite highlights. I mean,
yeah,
Matt Hughes is a douche, but
well,
holy
anyways,
shit, could that guy slam some people?
Absolutely. Well, anyways, getting off the MMA tip there. Thank you, and joining us on another edition for Dark Fringe Radio, of course. And tonight we have a very special guest that we'll be getting into our interview with Mr. Todd Neiss. And he is a prolific Bigfoot hunter researcher. Has been doing it for a very long time, 30 plus years. I mean, it's just amazing, just the some of the stories that he has and what his take is on the whole, Bigfoot Sasquatch thing. It's really amazing. And I hope you guys enjoy this interview. Me and Jay had a great time with him as well. So, but before we get into that, Jay, I would like to get into how to let everyone know how they can listen to the podcast. Very simple.
How, William? How?
Very, very simple. darkfringeradio.com. That's it. All you got to do is go right there, and that is the solution to all your troubles. So once you go there, darkfringeradio.com, you can scroll all the way to the bottom. You can listen to the episode or watch the episode right there at the bottom, or you can go to the top and click on any of the streaming services that you normally would use. Spotify, Stitcher, we're all on all those big ones. But yeah, you can check us out there and make sure you leave us a comment, 5-star rating. Some type of subscribe. We'd really appreciate that. It definitely helps with the advertisers. So thank you for doing that. And make sure you check us out, darkfringeradio.com. That's where you can listen to the latest episodes and all the content as well. And of course, we're all over social media too, Jay. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Dark Fringe Radio. So simple, go there. We have shit dropping there every day. I mean, we're dropping
on the reg.
I mean,
on the reg.
Yeah, and actually that actually leads me right in, excuse me, Jay, to As the World Burns. And so how does that segue into As the World Burns? Because there was something that I kind of wanted to bring up, because there was something that I had posted yesterday on social media.
Did you?
Yeah, that completely got swept under the fucking radar, got swept under the media carpet. So, Jay, I don't know. We talked about this briefly, but we really didn't pontificate upon this much because I said, let's save it for the podcast.
Sure
but
did.
there was an article that came out 4 days ago from Fox 6 Milwaukee, basically saying Jeffrey Epstein prison guards admit to falsifying records, Jay. So,
what?
Yeah. So,
they weren't entirely truthful?
No. I mean, it's so surprising, right? That they weren't
Shut
so
the
truthful.
front door.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's so surprising.
Gracious.
But it was again something that we have actually talked about. Shit, I'm trying to remember what number episode that was, but
we've covered the Epstein thing.
Yeah, I think it was like episode
times.
68, and we covered a whole episode on Jeffrey Epstein. So I implore all you guys, if you haven't checked that out, go back into our archives, go into our website. You can check it out there as well. It's episode number 68, and that's where we talk a full episode on Jeffrey Epstein. So very important. We give a whole timeline. I think we went through the whole timeline, Jay.
I believe
we gave our opinions as to what we thought happened after. You know what I mean? You gave your opinion, yes. I gave mine. You know, you thought he was really dead. I say that the guy's fucking still alive.
No.
Huh?
Homeboy is worm food. They falsified records. They didn't say he ain't dead.
That's true. I'll give you that. You're right about that. You're absolutely right. You know, it didn't say that he escaped or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not. Oh my God, we don't know how he died. It's
right.
Oh my God, he's definitely dead.
Yeah. Well, the Washington Associated Press basically came out and said the two Bureau of Prisons workers tasked with guarding Jeffrey Epstein the night that he killed himself in New York, in the New York jail, has admitted to falsifying records, Jay. But they will actually skirt any jail time behind bars under a deal with the federal prosecutors, authorities said this past Friday. So
wait. Just let me get
Yeah, you want to read that part to you again?
I want to try to wrap my.
Yeah. I'm sipping the tea.
I've been on that purple Wookie. Okay. Let me just wrap my. So what they're saying is that the guards who were supposed to be watching him not kill himself.
Correct.
Let's just say he did kill himself.
Correct.
Which no, he didn't. But let's just say he did.
Right.
Have admitted to falsifying records. But they're not going to get any jail time, because they're really nice guys.
Yeah, they're cooperating with the investigation and will cooperate with the investigation as seen fit by the federal prosecutors. And by doing so, they will skirt any kind of jail time whatsoever. So the two prison workers, Jay, Tova Noel and Michael Thomas, accused of sleeping and browsing the internet instead of monitoring Jeffrey Epstein the night he took his life in August of 2019. So they were both charged with lying on prison records, Jay, to make it seem as though they had made the required cell checks on the financier before he was found in his cell on August 10th. And the New York City's medical examiner ruled Epstein's death a suicide, which, again, that has been rebuffed and refuted by other autopsy.
Everyone.
Besides everyone, which is like the court of, what do they say, public opinion. But yeah,
William.
Yes, sir.
Everyone is all encompassing, my guy.
Oh, yes.
Everyone. I don't think any of us really think that. I think the split is on if you think he's alive or dead.
Yeah. Listen, at the very least,
I don't
I'm
think
on your
it's on
side.
how if he's dead.
Yes. Listen, at the very least, I'm on your side. At the very least, he is dead, but he did not kill himself. I'll give you that.
Yeah. And my guess is these two gentlemen are somehow going to end up also on suicide watch,
or dead, or die of some kind of mysterious way. I would implore everybody to keep a very sharp eye. I
was alluding to you were.
Yeah.
I was laying down a very sophisticated narrative, and you.
Yeah. I know, Jay. I know.
Delicate. But you're not delicate.
I know I'm not. I just go right in. And if you find one of these guys dead of some kind of crazy suicide, I wouldn't be surprised, or both. You know what I mean? Or getting killed by some kind of random act of, robbing or something like that. I mean, just something stupid that doesn't make sense.
It'll be something weird.
Yeah, it'll be something weird. You'll see. It'll happen.
It'll be like one of them is going to overdose in their car.
Right. Exactly. And then we said the same thing when we did this Epstein episode, Jay. We said that this didn't make any fucking sense. No, it's not going to make it to court, but it didn't make any sense. And we knew that the fucking guards were lying.
Yeah.
So they obviously know more than what they're I think, to me, they know a lot more than what they're letting on too. Because so if he didn't kill himself, somebody had to come in somehow, some way, right, Jay? There's only one way in, one way out, I'm assuming.
Ideally.
So were they in on that as well? Did it go that far?
And one would think that there might be, I don't know, video footage.
No.
Of
you would think.
You'd think.
The age of 2019.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I can Google Earth and see the inside of most people's bathrooms.
Yeah.
But there's no video footage of a high-class inmate on a suicide watch.
Right. You know, that's so true what you just said about Google Earth. You know, my son told me the other day that he did a Google search, Earth search of our house.
Yeah.
And he did like further down the street, and there was actually a photo of him, but his face was blurred out because he was walking home from school. Isn't that creepy?
Bro, it's Big Brother, man. There's not a moment of our lives not being we're being watched right now.
And not
by just our listeners. I mean,
they're listening. They're listening on this right now. And I want to say hi, alphabet people. Hello, alphabet, 3-letter alphabet people.
We don't gotta poke the bear, man.
I'm just saying hi. I'm not threatened. I'm just saying hi. I love you guys. It's all good. It's all good in the hood. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It seems like you would think that the parts they would be focused on is the exciting shit and not the boring minutia.
Right.
But no, exciting shit like Jeffrey Epstein's implausible death.
Yeah. And how many people that it affects higher up? Like, you know, it goes very high in the scheme of things. And that's where it gets kind of sticky. You know what I mean? So I implore everybody to go back, listen to that episode. Again, we did that. Me and Jay spent a whole episode on Jeffrey Epstein. It was a great episode. I mean, go back and listen to it. I'm not going to kind of rehash any of that stuff again, but I implore everybody to go back and listen to that. So, Jay, that was it for me for tonight for As the World Burns. And of course, nobody paid any fucking attention to this fucking story because everybody's worried about coronavirus and everything else. And
it's scary, Willie.
Anyways.
Goose fraba.
Yeah. Well, that brings us into our next segment, Jay, which is What the F Florida Man. Of course, this segment always brings a smile to my face. And it's here to my eye at the same time. But Jay, what do you have this week for What the F Florida Man? Please drop it on me, man. I want to hear some good shit this week.
Woman drives into grandma and child.
Oh, no.
Says she was trying to run over someone else.
Oh. So she killed somebody else when she was intentionally trying to kill somebody else.
They're not dead, but yeah.
Oh, okay, so, thank God.
Driver accused of ramming her car into a woman and child last week claimed she was trying to run over someone else. The South Florida woman reports as she was driving her vehicle, it barreled onto a playground in Pompano Beach Park, hitting Chandra McLeod. It's wrong, but I tried. And her 3-year-old grandson, as
it's Iranian
also
tobacco.
Knocked down a gate in the process. Huh?
It's the Iranian tobacco, but go ahead. Yes.
It's there, dude.
Yeah.
I made a valiant effort.
It's all good.
The grandmother told the reporters that she witnessed a group arguing at the park. She saw kids running and screaming.
Yeah.
She knew that there was a fight, and she was actually just trying to get her little one because she knew it was only getting worse. At that time, a woman whose last name is St. Felix claimed she was at the park in an argument, and that's when things started escalating.
Oh, okay.
She was attempting to run her over, but in the process, she lost control of the vehicle, didn't realize that she was about to run over a baby. Grandmother swoops in to save baby, gets hit by the car, gets a couple stitches. The baby is fine.
Thank God.
The woman is being brought up on charges, but says that she hopes that everyone is okay. And she was trying to run over
manslaughter. I hope they at least throw on her. Right?
I mean, you would just think. I mean,
I know. You know, You never know these days.
I'm just
you know?
saying.
I know. That's so crazy. What what a horrible.
That's
I mean, thank God that they're okay. Obviously, the grandma and the baby.
Yeah.
That's number
if
one.
If they weren't, I would not have read that story.
Yeah, I know. That would have been such a downer of a story, Jay.
Okay,
I would have been like, God dang,
it
Jay.
sounds bad.
Yeah, I don't like
everybody walked away okay. Let's start
Thank
there.
God.
I wouldn't read one where like a 3-year-old died. I work with children. I'm a light, heavy guy.
You definitely have your thing about you. Yes, you do.
Would never, ever. Okay, we're focused. I feel like we're focused on the wrong part. The woman told the cops she was trying to run over somebody else.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, let me ask you this question. Was she like high on drugs, or was this a legitimate thing where she really was trying to run over somebody else and she really did lose control?
Someone else.
Yeah.
That someone got out of the way.
Said, fuck you. I'm out of here.
Right. And that's when she lost control of the car and jumped the gate. Grandma got the baby out of the way. The car hit grandma a little bit, which is where she needs staples, but
she got a little roughed up.
A little roughed up.
She got clipped.
A little roughed up. But listen, man, Granny did what Granny had to do.
No, that's God. Listen, big ups to Granny on that one. You know what? Let's give a
big
grandma for grandma on that one. That's a fucking right there, man. I tell you, that's a trooper, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how many of us would have done that.
I don't know.
I would like to think I would have done it for my children. I'm sure you would have.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody would have.
Yeah.
But listen, all we can say is we would like to say we would have. This woman can say she
did it. She did it. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, listen, a great redeeming story at the end of that one, Jay. That was a fucking nosedive coming right back down.
Yeah, but we turned that bitch around, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. I thought that was a for sure, like,
oh, woof.
You brought it back up.
Okay.
Everybody was okay. I was like, all right, Jay.
Yeah, everybody's fine.
Everybody's okay. Thank God. But thanks, Jay, for that. For what the F, Florida woman, with your attempted murder driving, which that's the majority of women in South Florida anyway. But I didn't want to bring that up. Anyways, that's a hot button topic. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, that brings us to our interview with Mr. Todd Neiss. He is a researcher and just a long-standing expert on the Bigfoot, and over 30 years. And he had his first sighting back, I think it was in 95, Jay, that he was explaining to us, where he was, working. When he was deployed, and he was working in Utah and blowing up some forest, and all of a sudden saw something that he shouldn't have seen. So I'll leave you that as a teaser as to what you're going to be listening to here with our interview with Mr. Todd Neiss. And we hope you enjoy that.
Hi, I'm Mike Heston Rogers, and this is Dark Fringe Radio.
Hey, Dark Fringe Radio listeners. Tonight we have a very special guest. He is a Bigfoot witness and turned researcher, and he has been an active investigator for over 28 years. And he was born and raised in the Pacific Northwest. And he grew up learning and hearing of these legendary creatures, alternatively known as Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And of course, during those times, he kind of just pushed it off as just campfire, talk. And all that changed for him in the spring of 1993. And of course, as a sergeant in the Army of the 1249th Combat Engineer Battalion, he came face to face with one of three elusive giants in the temperate forest, Oregon's coast range, while conducting high explosive training. Of course, his sighting was independently corroborated by three fellow soldiers who also witnessed these creatures. And in his opinion, these creatures possess a relatively high IQ in comparison to the recognized great apes. Neiss currently, his theory is focuses on the presumed intelligence, which he believes fosters an irresistible sense of curiosity. And this curiosity, of course, which Neiss intends to exploit, and by presenting a variety of baits as well as an array of unconventional and non-threatening lures within a designated area, he hopes to successfully collect irrefutable evidence of the creature's existence. So, over the past 28 years, my friends, his research has garnered him international attention. He's been the subject of numerous documentaries, TV programs, US, Canada, UK, Germany. He's been featured on programs such as Unsolved Mysteries, one of my all-time favorites, Encounters to the Ends of the Earth, and then, of course, The Unexpected. And, of course, he's been featured on the Discovery Channel, the Travel Channel, and National Geographic. Please welcome to Dark Fringe Radio, the Sergeant of the Sasquatch, Mr. Todd Neese. Todd, how you doing?
Well, thank you for having me aboard. It's a privilege and an honor to be on your first Bigfoot show.
Yes. Yeah, we were just talking about that. Me and Jay were just speaking before you came on. We've done 95 episodes of this podcast over 4 years, and we've never done one full episode of Sasquatch. And reason being is because we wanted to actually have somebody like yourself who is I would say, one of the head researchers when it comes to this, and highly educated and experienced when it comes to, Bigfoot. And let's go back. I mean, first off, I want to say thank you for your service. Number one,
Absolutely. Thank you.
What is it? 21 years. I think you were in enlisted at that point, honorably discharged. Yeah. I mean, just thank you so much. And that's, a great sacrifice, of course. But you were a skeptic of this whole thing of Bigfoot at first, right?
Absolutely. I mean, some might consider me agnostic. I mean, I really had no I didn't really have anything in the game when I was growing up. Like you'd mentioned, I had kind of put it in the realm of scary campfire stories to get kids all riled up around a campfire and whatnot. And so, not having had any personal experience at the time, even growing up in the Pacific Northwest, you hear about this phenomenon, but
right.
It really didn't interest me in the least. And that all changed for me in one fell swoop, in an instant. I still, to this day, have a hard time wrapping my head around how just 25 seconds of my entire adult life at that time would change the path of my life from that point forward. And it has. Obviously, we wouldn't be talking right now.
Right.
But I can't tell you how many different aspects of my life, from where I live, or people I've met, even my wife, who's a researcher in her own right.
Yeah, she's totally gotten into the whole thing as well, huh?
Actually, before I did, she tried to do it in her teens.
Okay.
After a report from Florida by a county sheriff.
Skunk ape?
And yes, of course. And
of course.
She's been hooked ever since. And we met somewhere along the way and got married, which is a story in itself. And we'll probably circle back to that, as they say.
Yeah.
But,
no, it's funny because you say Florida and I say skunk ape because we're here in Florida as well, and we are all very familiar with the legend of the skunk ape. Basically Florida's version of Bigfoot. Obviously you smell very horrid smell before you see him or catch a glimpse of him, but that's usually the legend, huh?
Trust me, I always said, after interviewing hundreds of people over the years, and a handful of them claim to have smelled them, I've always secretly wanted to experience that smell. And one day I had my wish and checked that block, got that T-shirt, and I don't want to have to smell it again.
Oh, really?
Could you describe the smell for us? I mean, from your experience and us kind of open-minded skeptics, I couldn't even imagine what it would smell like. So what did it smell like, if you could?
Well, the smell is one thing, but there's some unusual physics that go with it that are hard to really comprehend. So let's take a skunk, for instance. If somebody hits a skunk, quarter of a mile ahead of you in the road, You start to smell it and it gets stronger and stronger, and then wow, there it is, and then it's bad, and then it still takes you a quarter of a mile to try with the windows down to try to get that smell out of there. You've got
Yeah.
that kind of a taper, if you will, into a smell that strong. Well, that was what physically was different. Just as a backdrop, there was a individual who was a rock hound who was familiar with this riverbed. It's called the Roaring River. Feeds into the Clackamas River here in Oregon. And he had been to this place apparently before. He realized that during the summer, when the water level drops down to a certain point, it exposes this lava flow
Okay.
that goes into the creek, and embedded in that lava flow is what he referred to as common opal. So he would go up there. Takes about 45 minutes just to get that mile in there because there's just no trail whatsoever. And he'd bring along his Australian Shepherd. Well, this one particular day, he got in there and started working on the rock, and of course, letting his dog wander. And he's down by the riverbed and chipping out this common opal. And just kind of for a minute, sit there and visualize this metallic hammer on this metallic chisel, tink, 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 very non-normal sound.
Right.
Well, that sound apparently attracted some attention. His dog starts growling and wasn't barking, but it just sat there and growled and growled and growled and growled. And after about 5 minutes of this, he assumed he got a raccoon or a squirrel or something treed, but he finally put down his hammer and chisel and went up to investigate what his dog was so upset about. And what, this is in his own words, what he said was, I looked in the direction my dog was looking and I saw a gorilla.
Wow.
No
Okay.
Bigfoot, no Sasquatch. He said, I saw a freaking gorilla standing up on two legs, staring at my dog, glaring, and with every exhale was grunting very heavily. And you can imagine the scene when we got in there with them a couple of weeks later. We measured that distance at about 47 feet. It's a little close for comfort when you're dealing with a 8 foot gorilla.
Right. No.
And anyway, it was on this. We followed him in using the same route he had taken to get in there. And sure enough, when we got there was his hammer and his chisel and his collection bag still sitting there on the riverbank. And so you kind of added to the credibility. And who's going to go out, take a couple of strangers out in the middle of the woods that they don't even know? And,
Yeah.
But plus we were packing because as a story would play out, they experienced something very unusual for Bigfoot behavior, and that is that they got chased. And that really doesn't happen in 99% of the cases. They simply, once they know that they've been spotted, they turn and walk into the woods, and that's it. Right. In this case, this thing chased them out.
Oh, wow.
And they were going not the route they took in because they were just trying to make a beeline back to safety. Stopped at one point. It had stopped as well, but as soon as they made eye contact, it charged them again. And so based on his story and not very many aggressive Bigfoot encounters like that, me and my partner, Steve, were both packing when we went in there. In fact, I think he was as well. But what was interesting, getting back to the smell, was we spent probably 30 minutes in there and took photos, took measurements, and it really wasn't a good substrate for tracks. It was very rocky and whatnot, but we did our due diligence, and then we're heading back out. We got maybe 10 minutes walk back toward the parking area when we walked into what I can only describe as a wall of smell.
Oh, really?
And I've never, and that's why I brought up the skunk comparison, because
Mm-hmm.
this smell was, well, first of all, it wasn't there 30 minutes ago, and
Right.
we had just walked through there.
Gotcha.
How it got there, what its origin was, we didn't know, but I had a pretty good idea because, like I said, 30 minutes ago, it was not there.
Right.
And you would trust me, there's no way you would not notice it going past us. It was so rank, I would say rancid,
Right.
Okay.
something along the lines of a rotting roadkill and a skunk, garbage. I don't know. It was just, but again, getting back to the physics of the thing,
Right.
what I don't understand is why something that strong, and I mean it's stronger than a skunk, why something that strong wasn't detectable
30
until
minutes
you
ago.
were, and no, wasn't detectable within 5, 10 feet, 20 feet from its origin, from
Oh,
its
really?
source. You literally could step in and out of this smell.
Wow.
I've never had that experience before with, especially something as strong smelling as that you're not kind of slow. What's that? And then, oh, it's getting stronger. And no, it was boom. You
Mhm.
were in it, and you could take 15, 20 steps and walk out the other side of it.
Wow.
Huh.
And I mean, like that, it'd be gone.
Hmm.
Turn around, walk back into it, and boom, there it was. But yeah, I checked that block, and yeah, I'm good with that. I don't need to
Yeah.
smell it again.
I can see
Yeah.
that. I can understand that. What's your theory on what causes that? Do you think that's like a remnants of maybe this being coming in and out of maybe a parallel universe, or maybe a portal of some sorts?
You know, I'm not a paranormalist per se, but let's face it, paranormal just means outside the norm.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So I would say these things fit into that, but I'm not so much into the what we like to call the woo
Yeah.
effect. You know,
Yeah.
I tend to try to stay centered on science,
Mhm.
biology, flesh and blood.
What you
But
can prove.
as right, and
Right.
and trust me, I've heard it all, and it's not just one person's theory about, you know, portals or orbs or whatever that seems
Right.
to go along with this phenomena, but
Yeah.
it's a number of people saying the same thing. So without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, what I try to do is take these stories, these experiences, and try to fit them in to a logical biological cause.
Mhm.
I can give you a number of examples, but
Well, everything changed for you in, of course, 1993. You went
Correct.
from skeptic to stone cold believer in the spring of 93. And explain.
it was an epitome. Just
Yeah.
as
I mean, explain to my listeners and of course, everybody else, what transpired on that day. I know you were working, you were doing your job as a serviceman for the United States. And what happened? What transpired that day?
So at that time, I was serving in the National Guard. My day job was a vice president of a company in Portland.
Mhm.
But one weekend a month, and then in 2 weeks annual training kind of thing was the norm for me. And I chose combat engineering. Hey, who doesn't? What guy doesn't like to blow stuff up?
Me.
Well, it kind of takes all the pop out of the 4th of July, but still,
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
it's a lot
Yeah.
of fun. I mean, there's actually a lot of science involved. But we had a blasting site on the base there at Camp Rylea, but it was for small demonstration, stuff.
Right.
Once a year, we would get access to some private timber company land not far from there, up in the Oregon Coast Range, and it was there that we got to do the, the full scale, 150 pounds of C4 plastic explosives or 250 pounds of ammonium nitrate. We've been soaking in diesel fuel for 3 hours. And,
There we go.
Kinds of fun stuff.
So we're talking working with power now.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
what we'd do is we'd use these gravel quarries
Mhm.
that they had throughout their pretty vast holdings.
Mhm.
And we could safely do these larger explosions within the quarry and not worry about, literally breaking every window on the base or setting the forest on fire or anything. It's fairly controlled, but
Right.
on a large scale.
Mhm.
Anyway, we had done 2 out of the 3 exercises that day, and the third and final exercise was a cratering charge. And that's where that ammonium nitrate comes in. But we got that in the ground. It was replicating or simulating a cratering charge where you would literally blow a road in half and prevent the enemy from using it. And so
Making
we let
them
the
go to a
fuses-
different direction so that way you can pitch
Exactly.
them in that direction.
That's our entire mission statement as combat engineers. It's mobility, counter mobility, which means we get our guys through wherever they want to go. And if there's a minefield, we take it out. If there's a river, we'll put in a bridge, yada, yada, yada. And
Vice versa on the
Conversely-
other side.
the other way.
Right.
We literally engineer the paths of both combatants and whatever movement element you're with.
Yeah.
But anyway, we lit these fuses on the cratering charges, and we had 4 vehicles up there. So if you can imagine, 2 Humvees up front, and third vehicle was a covered deuce and a half or 2.5 ton troop transport. And in the rear was the commander in his Humvee. So 4 vehicles in all. Light the fuses. I think we had like 11 and a half minutes before it blew. Enough time for us to get down to a safety area and wait for the explosion, and then we'd come back and check our work.
Mhm.
So again, I'm a passenger in the second Humvee sitting behind the driver. And it was a fairly nice day in April. So I had the window open, my arm hanging out.
Right.
And having been a hunter in that area, the Saddle Mountain hunting unit, I had hunted for deer and elk in there for years. It was just natural for me to, glance about the forest and look for wildlife.
Mhm.
And I that day I got a little more than I asked for.
Yeah.
We had rounded a corner going clockwise, and we went from probably a second generation stand to a much lower reprod, we call it, 10, 12-foot trees versus 40-foot trees.
Mhm.
So it kind of cleared my view down the hillside to the second blast site came into view right away. And I'm again looking around for wildlife, and I couldn't help but spot these 3 figures standing right out in the open in the second rock quarry. It was they were big. They were pitch black. There was no clothing on them, but still, when you're kind of in a process of denial.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You see something that isn't supposed to be,
Right.
and you're trying to come up with excuses. There's got to be something other than what it really looks like. And so my first thought was, okay, what are those people doing down there? Because our SOP required, because of the obvious danger of what we're doing, is everybody's accountable. Everybody is together.
Right.
You don't have 2 or 3 people wandering around doing anything like that. Anyway, I hardly got the thought out of my head is, well, what are those people doing there? When I just came to this realization that I couldn't unsee what I'm seeing, and here are these big, massive, hair-covered. I don't know what. I'm like.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
could
in
only
my mind.
imagine what you're even thinking at that moment. I'm trying to rationalize what you're processing in your brain. You know what I mean?
I even for a split second, I thought, okay, I can make those out to be 3 North American black bears, but they're both all standing up together. And oh, look, their arms go way below their knees. And it was just a matter of literally seconds before I had to accept what I was looking at. And then I was just really stunned. I was in shock, and I'm watching. And just for your audience, by way of description, the tallest of the 3 stood in the middle.
Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to ask, if there was any, distinguishing features about, any of the 3. But yeah, I know through your the thing that you sent me, as far as your experience is concerned, yeah, you did mention that the one in the middle was quite bigger.
Right. I mean, if I hold my hand up like this, you can see, my middle finger's a little longer than the other 2, and that's kind of what I'm looking at. But what was interesting was that larger one, I estimated at 9 feet or so. Stood there like a statue, while the 2 on either side of it, which I still wouldn't consider small by any means, they were probably 7 foot tall. The 2 on either side of it were doing this rocking back and forth thing, right? And these long pendulous arms that went between their knees and their ankles are swinging in front or below their knees, as they apparently we're just shifting weight from right foot to left foot and doing this rocking back and forth motion. And they did that the entire time I was watching them. And this wasn't a 5-second something flashed in front of my headlights.
That's unnerving.
It was 25 seconds at least.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound very long.
But it's significant enough time for you to
No,
distinguish certain things.
Well, I would encourage your viewers to look at their watch for 25 seconds. They'll get to about 15 and say, hell with this. 25 seconds, especially considering what I was watching, seemed like an eternity.
Oh, I'm sure.
So anyway, this rocking motion continued throughout the entire time that I am looking at them. And I should, again, by way of description, note that, I'm sure you've seen the Patterson-Gimlin footage from 1967.
We were just talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about what became known as Patty.
Right.
I've studied that film for many years, and I'm actually friends with Bob Gimlin, who was one of the 2 people there on the scene. And these things did not seem to have that. I don't know if Patty was pregnant or had been recently pregnant, or was just old like me, and people tend to get a little paunchy in their old age. But these 3 things I'm looking at, they look like bodybuilders with hair.
Really?
I'm talking, their shoulders were massive.
Okay.
The head appeared to sit directly on the shoulders, as if their traps literally went from like the bottom of their ears all the way out to their shoulders. No real visible neck, just a solid block of
so a bunch of big, tall, hairy Brock Lesnar's basically running around the floor.
Pretty much. I'd love to draft them for the Seahawks, but I can't.
Right?
But
We're not going to bring up the fact that I'm a Niners fan.
No. Here
We're
we
just
go.
going to leave that be.
Oh, shots fired.
Apparently we're out of time, but thank you. No, I'm kidding.
Love it. Love it.
So, no, I mean to say that these were barrel chested.
Right.
And a very marked slendering down to their waist. So, if you will, Patty didn't look that way to me.
Not at all.
She looked pretty heavy set, but all 3 of these boys, I mean, I assume they were boys. But,
you think Patty was legit? You think that was a legit sighting? A legit?
Absolutely. For a number of reasons, and like I say, I've studied it for decades.
Yeah.
I have no doubt at all, and that's not just in looking at the scientific data and looking at video enhancements, but knowing at least one of the individuals who are there who is as honest as the day is long, who literally, when they came back from that encounter, wanted nothing more to do with it, went back to ranching, while Roger went on a pretty much a nationwide tour with the film. But
Yeah, right.
Bob Gimlin is such a gentleman, part Native American, cowboy all the way. And up until 80 years of age, he'd still been breaking horses. And the guy,
Wow.
I've known him for years. I've gone, I've shared the stage with him. I'm surprised to say, but I mean, I've gone to his birthday parties. I've hung with the guy, and I'll tell you what, that guy couldn't lie if you paid him.
Yeah.
And I do remember one year asking him, and I don't mean to get off on a tangent, but
No,
I said,
please, no.
Bob, is there, between you and me, is there any way that you and Roger could have been hoaxed? Because I don't believe that you had anything to do with a hoax, or, you know,
Right.
but is there any way you could have been hoaxed? And he said, well, Todd, I'll tell you, I don't think so. He said, because Roger and I'd get up every morning at camp, and we'd put the coffee on, and then we'd roll out the map, and it was only then that we would pick the route we'd go that day. So there's no way anybody could have known which way we're going in order to get up ahead of us to
Exactly.
hoax us. So
Exactly.
he said we could have gone any number of different directions, and you know, and they've been up there several weeks in some pretty nasty weather. But anyway, I digress. Yes, I do think the Patterson Gimlin film is legitimate, and it still stands as one of the best pieces of evidence out there to this day. Getting back to my guys, once, like I say, once I lost sight of them, I just kind of slumped back in my seat and tried to process the whole thing. And,
Yeah.
you know, things go through your mind like, I've been out in these woods for decades, and all this time, these things have been out there
Right.
when I'm out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling. And so what's even more interesting is when we get back down to the safety staging area, I just instinctively jumped out of the Humvee and ran back up in the direction that we had just come from, hoping I could get far enough to get
Skid
a
again.
second view of it. You
Right.
know, I mean, it's like seeing God, and then suddenly it's snatched away from you, and you're like, ah.
Right.
So I jogged up about as far as I can go without breaking protocol, which means being out of sight of the main group. And try as I may, I'm standing on my tiptoes. I'm trying to look over this bit of a hill that was between me and the gravel pit, and I just couldn't quite get a lock on them. And I heard somebody yell my name, "Hey, Nice!" And I looked to my right, and here's Sergeant Martin walking my direction, smoking on a cigarette. And I go, "What?" He goes, "What are you looking at?" And I said, I dropped my hand on my side, "Nothing."
Yeah.
And he kept coming. He got up to where I was at.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll never forget, he said, I don't suppose you saw what I saw at the second blast site. And being the chimp that I was, I said, I don't know, Jeff, what did you see? I wasn't going to say
That's a good
right?
move, actually.
I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
Exactly.
Right.
Was it this big? No. So anyway, I said, I don't know, Jeff, what did you see? And I remember him taking a drag off a cigarette and looking left and right, make sure nobody else was in earshot. And he said, well, I saw 3 huge hair covered, I don't know, Bigfoot, I guess. I don't know. And of course, at that point, I'm like, dude, saw him too. You know, and it was nice to have the corroboration. I mean, it was almost nice to share that experience with another person.
But it's also, it's a gift, but it's also a curse.
Oh, absolutely. You
Right.
know, you hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
My point being is I didn't need Jeff's corroboration
Yeah.
to somehow validate what I saw. I can close my eyes and see it as clearly as I did that day.
Right.
You just can't unsee something like that. So, yeah. So again, it was interesting to have another perspective.
Yeah, no, it's good to have that validation, of course, and have somebody else, let you know that obviously you're not going crazy. Number one,
I didn't think so. You might have thought that, but
yeah, you never know. I mean, that would probably run through my mind. I'm like, damn, am I going crazy right now? Do I, I need somebody to corroborate this. But and why I brought up that it's kind of a curse as well is because you had that conversation with the sergeant, and you kind of brought it up again later on, with some friends and stuff like that. And you kind of got ridiculed a little bit about it. And, until some of the other soldiers that were there kind of corroborated with that story as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. Being a traditional guardsman, like I say, you give up 1 weekend a month for training purposes. So that was early April. Then the next drill would have been early May. And as it happened, we had 2 more soldiers, independent of each other, mind you, both come forward and admit to seeing the same thing. So it's a unique amongst a lot of encounters, even that there's some pretty unique ones out there. But I mean, multi-animal sightings are quite rare. That's usually a single individual.
Right.
Multi-animal settings with multiple eyewitnesses is extremely rare. And let's face it, based on the activity that we were engaged in blowing up the forest, it makes it a very unique sighting. So, but yeah, so that's how I got started in this. And you're right. There's always that ridicule factor. And I trust me, I wrestled
ridiculed
with
every day for being a conspiracy theorist. So I get it. I understand.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But
I'm ridiculed every day for being a Niners fan. It happens.
That's right. So, I mean, no, because you got to understand, at the time, not only was I a non-commissioned officer in the military, I was a family man raising 3 young boys and vice president of a shipping company in Portland. And I literally had to kind of put things on a scale. And I usually don't discuss this much, but I'm glad you brought it up. I had to kind of weigh things in the sense of,
it's the juice worth the squeeze.
If you go public with this,
Right.
you are risking your reputation publicly.
Right.
And you're risking people questioning your sanity and questioning all kinds of things. And I had kind of just at one point decided, you know what, niece, just zip it and go on with your life as if it never happened. But in time, I kind of changed the formula, and I took it from that same scale and decided, if I don't tell the truth, is that not the equivalent of lying?
Yeah.
Is it falsifying reality? Is it not being true to yourself? And on that scale, with your big shiny reputation, what's more important? And I made a choice at that time that I wasn't going to keep quiet about it. And
Right.
people, in my mind's eye, is like, okay, what am I really worried about? A bunch of strangers and how they feel about me? Because I
Right.
know the people that have known me for years and known my reputation, they're not going to ridicule me because they're going to know Todd doesn't go out there and talk about, paranormal stuff every day. He doesn't talk about flying saucers and ghosts and portals and orbs, and that's not like me. So I'm going to be like, I don't know.
That's what makes your story much more convincing and much more, I think, to me, validating to me. Because you're not a guy. Why would you even lie about something like this? This would not benefit you in any way, shape, or form.
Right. I mean, in reality, I stood a lot more to lose than I did to gain. And
Of
so,
course you did.
but to me, I kept going back to the question, why me?
Right.
What are the odds that we lit that fuse 10 minutes earlier or 10 minutes later? Would they still have been there?
Right.
What if I was sitting behind the passenger seat on the other side of the Humvee? And you know how wide Humvees are. I mean, the old original Humvees.
Yeah.
If I were on the other side of the Humvee, I would not have had a view of that gravel quarry.
Right.
What if?
Yeah.
But it could have come down to seconds. So I kept really coming back to: is there a purpose?
Right.
Again, why me? I mean, could have been anybody, could have been nobody, but it was me. And
Right.
so I have chosen, and I made a commitment long ago to dedicate my life to bringing the truth to life. And I mean, for me, I'm not a believer. I don't believe in Bigfoot. In fact, I opened a conference up one day with that line, and
everybody's jaw probably fucking dropped to the
I
floor.
go, let me start by saying I don't believe in Bigfoot. And everyone's like, huh?
What?
We want our money back. You know? Right? But
Off
then
with this
of
guy.
course, I followed, of course, with I know they exist.
Right.
I mean, it's asking me like, do you believe in cats? Do
Right.
you believe in a bird?
Right.
No, I know birds exist.
Right.
I know Bigfoot exists, and it's not a Bigfoot, by the way. There's more than one. I saw 3. And if you just use your God-given brain, you'd realize that it's impossible for one solitary legendary beast to have existed for hundreds of years and
Not having an offspring.
Yeah.
I
mean, there had to be a civilization of them.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what I've done. I mean, I've partnered up with different people.
You co-founded the American Primate Conservancy. I mean, with your wife Diane.
Correct.
That's awesome. I mean, that's awesome that she even got involved with all this too.
Oh yeah. I mean, we each had our own before we met and got married. She had the Stalking Hominid Research group, and I had the American Primate Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
When we got married, it's like, it's stupid to have 2 websites and 2 organizations. Let's just combine them and call it what I think is more apropos anyway, which is a conservancy, because that's our mission statement is the discovery, research, knowledge, recognition, and protection for this species, whatever they are.
With using non-threatening tactics as well, which is something that I like to highlight because, I think that's a very important part of that.
Yeah, people ask me, going back to my sighting, and a lot of people raise a good issue. They go, okay, I'm trying to picture myself. I live in the woods, and all of a sudden I hear an explosion, and I see a mushroom cloud. And believe me, these put up mushroom clouds, huge explosions. And then it happens again. Right. People go, give me a break. Any deer, elk, bear, cougar, raccoon, fox, squirrel, anything would be going 180 degrees the other direction, away from that. And it may take them a long time to recover before they decide it's over and maybe they can come back home, if there's anything left of it. And so how odd is it that after what was just an hour at the most from that last explosion, that these creatures would be able to overcome that innate fear that most other animals wouldn't? And that's where I get to this what I believe to be a heightened sense of inquisitiveness, if you will.
IQ level.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're smart.
To allow your curiosity to overcome your fear, to that extent, to me, spells intelligence. It's like, yeah, that was scary, and geez, boy, that was crazy. But we got to check this out.
Right.
And I don't know of any other animal that would do that.
Yeah.
And
Except for humans.
Well, no, I guarantee if you're out in those woods and there was over here in the back in distance, there's a mushroom cloud, and then right over here is another one. You don't know where the next one's going to go off. Or
Yeah, I'm out.
yeah.
I'm not going nowhere near there. He's right.
I mean, but here, let me give you an analogy that I think is appropriate.
Okay.
On the human side.
Okay.
So, let's say you're sitting, or you live in, suburbia, USA. It's a beautiful day. You're out on your porch. You're drinking a cold one. When all of a sudden, without any sort of warning, you see a jet airliner coming down into your neighborhood, trailing black smoke. It impacts, say, 4 or 5 blocks away. It's a huge fireball. You feel the ground shake. There's this ear-splitting explosion. And yeah, trust me, for the next minute or so, you're probably paralyzed with fear, and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You're coming to the realization that it's an extremely volatile, dangerous situation. But I think what's going to happen over the course of the next few minutes is we as humans, now that you realize you're safe and that there's not, 10 planes to follow,
Right.
that we either by means of wanting to render assistance or help in any way you can, maybe there's some survivors, or maybe just out of morbid curiosity, you want to be a gawker or whatever. I think you're going to find yourself drawn to that amazing event and
absolutely.
And put that fear aside. And again, I don't think Sparky is going to follow you, but Sparky's smarter than us.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
but I think that's a good analogy. And so
no, it is.
My expeditions that I've run, in fact, the first 2 were called Operation Entice Contact, and then of course Entice Contact 2, 5 years later. And the whole concept was, you don't find Bigfoot. Bigfoot finds you.
Bigfoot finds you.
And if you think for a moment that you're going to spot a Bigfoot before they spot you, could happen. And you're going to run it down, good luck.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say? What would you say to somebody who hasn't done a lot of research, someone like me, someone who's openly skeptical? I don't think I know everything. I haven't done the research. I genuinely don't know. I don't believe in it. But what would you say is something that you could point to, a piece of evidence that you think a novice like me, that would help kind of maybe turn that tide to get them to be a little bit more on the believer side if they weren't?
Well, first of all, I'd say find another hobby. But that aside, I say do your homework, do your research, talk to people. There's a tremendous amount of information out there if you know where to look. Attend conferences, meet other people, network, and just try to open your mind up a little bit and realize, and trust me, there's no doubt there are hoaxes. Some of the things that detract from people being serious about this is hoaxes, which I doubt make up 1%. There's a lot of people that, again, coming from the woo side, tend to attribute a lot of attributes, shall we say, that no other animal has that we've ever discovered. In some cases, they may just be born into that kind of imagination. And in a lot of cases, I've watched researchers that have been very serious biological researchers after 10, 15, 20 years start kind of, you know,
Sway
oh,
over.
it's got to be quantum physics, some sort of, it's got to be, you know, supernatural. They've got to have these amazing characteristics that you can't point out in any other creature out there. I mean, if you can say, hey, look at the, you know, the Western garden weasel, you know,
Right.
it can do this, but
Yeah.
you can't. It's just a lot of stuff just seems
And not
come
only
out
to
of-
mention
come-
that, I mean, we're constantly finding, you know, extinct, animals that we thought they were extinct for millions of years. I think today that I read an article today about some bony fish that was discovered that had been supposedly extinct for like millions of
25 million
years. Yeah, and I've
Yeah.
never even heard of it. It looked so
He's
strange, and it was
talking about-
alive too.
You're talking about the coelacanths.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you know, things like that. I mean, it's got to be possible. And you know, when it comes to gathering evidence, you know, that's the most important thing. There's different, you know, mannerisms. There's different methods in doing this. What do you find is probably the most, you know, for you suitable type of investigation when you go out there, you know, to try to track or find a Bigfoot? I mean, are you using, you know, flare cameras? What do you use when you go out there?
Well, my my array of scientific technological toys grows by the day, it seems. But
It's like a ghost hunter, just
Um,
like that. Yeah.
right, so
Yeah.
no, it's like I have
Or car collector, just constantly getting parts.
all kinds of game cameras, probably 20 or more. We
Right.
set those up in different locations, and sometimes up as long as 9 months at a time.
Mm,
Get some fantastic wildlife shots, but
I'm
not
sure.
not the prize shot. But
right.
when it comes to audio, we use what they call a digital recorder called a Tascam. There's a few others out there.
Mhm,
I think Zoom makes another really good set.
mhm.
And then there's when it comes to video, we have now 2 drones that
Nice.
utilize 4K cameras and can fly up as high as 2 miles,
Wonderful.
over 10,000 feet.
Mhm.
We have the thermal imagers, of course, the FLIR, which will do both video and still shots as well as audio.
Right.
I'd love to upgrade that. Mine's got probably about a 500-foot range,
Gotcha.
if
Gotcha.
that. There's I just purchased a Psionics color night vision camera, which does again video, the photograph.
But it basically looks like daytime and night, basically, right?
It's better than what I used in the Army, and I've only been out of the Army for 2 years. But I'm talking, instead of that green, grainy stuff you see
Right.
on TV, I'm talking full color.
Really?
Really?
You can see
Wow.
a red pickup truck, and it's red, and you can see something blue, it's blue.
Wow.
And they're fairly inexpensive. I mean, when you consider the technology, they even have their own Wi-Fi where you can actually project it to, say, a tablet, where
A
somebody
tablet
somebody who's with you can actually watch what you're looking at through the scope on a tablet
Right.
and record it.
Amazing.
So the technology is trickling down. Most of it starts out in military, and over time,
Trickles down to
comes
the public
down-
sector.
and comes down in price.
Right,
So, and for poor people like me, that's a good deal.
Hey, listen, just like
Yeah.
us.
So I have a piece of equipment that I don't know if anybody has, and I've had it since really the 90s, which is seismic ground sensors.
Hmm,
And I have a kit of 4 of these. They're radio transmitters that have a 6-foot lead that come off of them that go to a spike, and you put this spike in the ground.
mhm.
Each transmitter sends out its own unique signal, and it measures vibration in the ground. So if something walks by, it'll pick it up. And I'm not
Right.
just talking 10, 15, 20, 30 feet from this spike. Depending on the substrate, I've actually had them detect out almost 100 yards.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually set them up on a football field, which, mind you, is a perfect substrate. You've got grass.
Right. It's a perfect environment. Right.
But in that perfect environment, I've put one on the 30-yard line, the 60-yard line, the 80-yard line, and the end zone. Got on the other end zone, jumped up and, jumped hard on the ground. And you can literally hear all four of them trigger in succession because it takes time to get to each
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
But 100 yards in some cases. So, but we'll put these out around our base camp on, what look like reasonable avenues of ingress, game trails and whatnot. And so that's a tool that we use. I can't even, we've got a bunch of crap. That's all.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, but when it comes to the expedition, again, we try techniques that are conventional.
Mhm.
So let's forget about Bigfoot for a minute.
Right.
How do we get a bear? How do we get a cougar? How do we get a deer? Is there a way to draw in an elk? Is there, how do you get ducks? So you start looking at things like bait. You
Right.
start looking at things like putting out distress game calls.
Mhm.
And there's a whole library of those, which will bring in coyote and cougar and bobcat, you name it.
One thing I wanted to just jump in real quick, if you don't mind, Todd.
Sure.
I've also heard tree knocking. Is that a true thing?
Oh, it is. Trust me. I went all the way until 2 years ago without hearing one, but I heard enough about them, and I never had an issue with it. But
Yeah.
2 years ago, my wife and I were camping on the south side of Mount Hood here, where we live,
Mhm.
and we just before sunset heard a very loud crack, like two wooden baseball bats being smacked together as hard as you could. And there was nothing out there that I could equate it to as far as like, okay, an elk stepped on a rotten branch and it cracked under its
Snapped,
foot or
right.
something. No, this was crack.
Yeah.
And it wasn't far from us. And we kind of looked at each other and I go, honey, I don't think we're alone. And then shortly after that, I'd say 45 minutes later, now the sun's gone down. You got to imagine it's 85 degrees, no wind, period. We're deep in the woods. And from my 6 o'clock, we both hear this huge tree get slammed to the ground in just after dark with no wind, nothing. Just, you could hear it going. You just hear
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, wham! I mean, you could about feel it through the ground, and it was like, let's turn the truck around.
I'll take down the
went
truck, get the
we
car
went in
ready.
head in. I figured, let's just
Yeah.
turn it around and just, But when it comes to the tree knock thing, there's a couple theories I have, but mainly I do think they use it for communication. It's not always a single knock. But my theory is they use this as a fairly subtle means of alerting other of their species that the short hairless guys are in the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And so these people that go out and intentionally tree knock, you might as well be cranking the stereo because you're just letting them know that, at least that's my theory, that you're just doing their heads up for them. Now, that being said, I had one of the most amazing experiences, I would say, short of my original sighting. I had the opportunity to go to, of all places, Nebraska. I had been in touch with a native gentleman there who, for almost 2 years, and who I found very interesting. He's a Christian man and lives on this reservation and does his Squatch rezzing group out there. And I had seen a number of videos that he had taken out there. And I don't know if you've heard of eye shine, but there's a phenomena that goes with Bigfoot that apparently.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Okay. And I had heard it too. Never experienced.
Explain if you could, please.
I can't. That's the problem. So in places where this phenomena occurs, obviously places where people have had experiences with Bigfoot, and basically a lot of people might, and myself included up until November or October, think, okay, well, were you shining a flashlight their direction? Was this actually reflection off their retina or the tapetum? Was there any background light? Maybe not shine directly at them, but the whole concept of bioluminescence in a primate, which we are, imagine it's one of us.
Right.
If you had the ability to generate naturally some bioluminescence through the organs of your eyes, would that be kind of self-defeating? I mean, wouldn't that be kind of blinding yourself? I mean, how can they do that? I don't get the whole thing, but I will tell you this. I went back there after being shown a very amazing photograph and video of which I cannot speak publicly of. I flew out there on the next flight, and I spent over a week there, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, my plane left on Saturday, but Monday through Friday, every night we went out at midnight at the earliest. We came back at 2:00 in the morning. We were in a very rural hardwoods, rolling hills kind of a situation along the Missouri River. Very dense hardwoods, oak and maple and whatnot.
Right.
And what I experienced over those 5 nights, I still am having trouble reckoning with. What I saw is what he had shown me on video many times, and that's cool, but doesn't make sense. And frankly, it still doesn't make sense, but I'll tell you, we went out there and my friend would speak in his native tongue. We'd park the car, turn off the lights, nobody coming down this 2-lane road.
Right.
You would hear a car from half a mile away. And he would get out there and he would say, "Aho, kage," which means, "Hello, friend." And then he would say, "Gigaho," which means, "Come closer." And he talked to them both in his language as well as English, and probably for my benefit. But I swear to God, after sometimes 30 seconds, maybe 2-3 minutes at the latest, I'm not kidding you, from out of pitch black darkness, boop, and then over here, boop.
Wow.
Two sets of what appear to be eyes. They're glowing and they're moving ever so slightly.
Right.
Sometimes they would go to the left, sometimes they go to the right. Sometimes they would move closer, sometimes they'd move back. Oh, over here, there's a third one, right?
Okay.
And I'm just like, I'm not seeing this, I'm not seeing this. And then came the vocalizations. And for me, that's kind of what capped it. That first night we got what I can only assume was a female, and she went very high pitched, very loud, wailing, moaning kind of sound for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 seconds, and then take a 10-second break and do it again. Take a break, do it again. She did it 4 times, and I swear to God, it was like almost like a song. And it was beautiful.
Really?
It was almost beautiful.
Really?
And it's the first time any Bigfoot vocalization ever put me at ease. But it was just
if I would think of what a Bigfoot sounds like, it would be like blood curdling to me.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Chomp
To
like
me,
a tiger.
yeah, like something that I would be like completely like.
Oh, trust me, they can.
Oh, I'm sure.
I would say the closest I ever got to a Bigfoot was about 80 feet
Okay.
and was roared at after taking a number one. I don't know. Is this a kid-friendly show? I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I had,
no.
to, I had to go pee.
No.
It's definitely
All
not
right? Gotta
kid
edit
friendly.
that out.
I
I
already
had to
dropped
take
the
a leak.
F-bomb earlier. So
All right. So anyway, I had just gotten done answering the call of nature and was
Yeah.
was just buckling my belt when at about my 10 o'clock horrific
oh,
ear splitting, probably 125 decibels. What I call almost a roaring bark, if you will. I know that sounds weird, but I call it that because I want you to imagine, you know, the MGM lion at the start of the movies that does,
Right.
you
Yes.
know, I think they call him Leo. I don't know.
right.
But crank that up to volume 12
Mm-hmm.
on the best speaker system you ever got
Mm-hmm.
and have it, this deep roar go off, and then for like 3 seconds, and right at the end, it just ended with a real guttural at the end of it, almost kind of like a bark. It was a, you know, but that's not even close. I'm
Right.
telling you, 2 minutes passed before I could even move. And I honestly, look, I've been shot at by rockets and mortars and missiles and bullets and swam with sharks. I got chased by a damn grizzly up in Canada a couple of years ago.
Jeez.
I have jumped at a perfectly good working aircraft.
Yeah. Okay.
And I have
There are other ways to entertain yourself, I promise.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to tell you guys right now, there is nothing I've ever experienced that ever had that effect on me, and I don't want to ever feel it again. Imagine this nightmare scenario,
Mhm.
and this is the only analogy I can put with it. You're flying at 12,000 feet, and suddenly the plane breaks apart, or your best enemy pushed you out, and
Mhm.
without a parachute.
Mhm.
Now, you've got 2 minutes before you hit the ground. And in reality, it looks like the ground's coming up to you, by the way. But you got 2 minutes to your death.
Mm.
And if you're given a gun at that point, you'd probably kill yourself before you even got close, just because the terror, the abject terror
Yeah.
that you're going through during that fall, it's insidious, it's cruel, but that's what I was experiencing that day when I was roared at. Yeah,
Wow.
that was in 1998 at the base of Saddle Mountain. That expedition I had, I don't know if you know Peter Byrne or Ron Moorhead, but I had them with me on my duration team, and I've gone out several times with them since, camping and whatnot. But yeah, unfortunately.
And you've let me go back to that. You've done research in a lot of different places. I mean, not just in the Pacific Northwest, but do you find that your area there, the Pacific Northwest, that's the place to be if you really want to have an experience? I
used to think that. I've kind of had my eyes opened up a little bit. I've actually done research, in California, Northern California, and the Sierras, and the Coast Range. Arizona's got some very high mountains. Actually, gets snow every year. Nebraska. I just came back a year and a half ago from Alaska on an investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Plan to get back up there this summer.
Mm-hmm.
All through Canada. I'm working on a.
Oh, I'm sure there's stuff in Canada. There's got to be stuff in.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm working with the gentleman to put together an expedition where we'll be flying out of Campbell River, which in British Columbia is on the east side of Vancouver Island, about halfway in between.
Okay.
This is a First Nations bush guide, and there'll be one other person with us, and we're going to fly in from Campbell River via helicopter and be dropped off in this very desolate place that has 3 different watersheds and a couple different lakes.
Mm.
And we're going to stay up there a week, possibly 2 weeks before we radio for pickup. But yeah, these things aren't, I wouldn't say concentrated so much in the Pacific Northwest, but they're certainly here, but they're not solely here.
Yeah.
I'm finding out, like I say, this experience in Vancouver, or excuse me, in Nebraska was to this day the most mind-boggling. I'm probably going overtime here.
Sure too.
I know I'm probably getting overtime here, but I have to tell you a couple of things that happened on that trip.
Yeah, please. No.
One time I wanted to get out there during the daytime.
Mhm.
I insisted on it because you take me into a setting that I'm not familiar with in pitch blackness.
It's not fair.
I mean, what the hell do I know
Right.
what it looks like in daylight? Is there a road back there? Is there a
Yeah.
house back there? I mean, it is black as it could be.
Right.
And so I went out there during the daytime. 2:00 in the afternoon, I was not knowing that I was going to be going in the field, and I was actually going there for another purpose. But I wish I would have brought some game cams because I would have put them all over out there.
Mm.
But I did happen to bring along this Tascam digital tape recorder, which you probably know will tape for 2 or 3 days straight. And so
Oh yeah.
I went out there in the middle of the day and I went to turn that sucker on. I hit the button, the red light came on. I went, yeah, full batteries, put her down. As soon as I stand up, off to my left, here's little Miss Sing Song, broad daylight.
Wow.
She's doing that song again. And I'm like, I don't know why. I just didn't expect any activity during the day.
Right.
And I put this microphone out in the general area where they were at, hoping I'm going to get something. And as soon as I stood up, here she goes singing to the choir. And there's no way a coyote or anything could do what I heard. So I'm like, yeah, I got it. I'm pretty sure I got that. I turn around and start walking back to my rental car down at the road. I got about maybe 10, 15 feet when I heard.
Oh shit.
That's the only second time I've heard tree knocks in 28 years.
Yeah.
But this was 6 in a row, 10 times louder than that, wood on wood, and so rapid. That's the thing that got me. It was literally,
It was
I mean,
quick.
I don't know if it had drumsticks. I mean, I'm trying to picture doing
Right.
this.
Right.
But whatever the case, 3 very loud cracks of wood on wood from a whole different direction. And I'm like, I'm out of here. And I'm thinking, I got that on tape too, right? When I
yeah.
go-
Yeah.
I later go back to get my recorder. Are you familiar with Tascams?
I am. Yes.
Okay. So you know that when you push the power button once, you get a red light.
Right.
You have to push it a second time
To
where
get
it's
the
flashing.
yeah.
So you know it's
It's recording.
dumb shit. Pushed the button once, saw the red light, assumed it was recording. Obviously, I hadn't used it for a little while, and I got zipped.
Nothing.
Oh man. Oh,
Now,
man.
one last thing that happened
Please.
there that is again it confirms to me that whatever's behind those lights, and I have to tell you, those lights
Mhm.
could be start out dim. They would increase in intensity. Sometimes I wouldn't say blinding, but I mean very intense.
Right.
And at times they would actually change color or tone.
Mm.
Most of the time they were white, almost a bluish white, but at other times they would shift to orange or even red.
Hmm.
And sometimes they would blink out, be gone for 20, 30 seconds, and then I'd come back on in a different location.
That's so crazy.
But anyway, this one night we were out with my native friend, and we weren't getting a lot of activity initially. And he was getting a little discouraged. He goes, you know what? He said, I'm going to try something. I haven't not done this for some time, but in the past when I've done this, it seems to get their attention. He goes, I'm going to pray with them.
Mm.
And I said, really? Okay. And he goes, yeah. He goes, sometimes when I do that, they'll respond. So he's like, oh, Kage, I want to pray for you and your family and your children with this virus going around. We want to pray that you're safe and that you're happy. And I want to discuss, if you would like, I'll tell you about my creator. And if you want, Gigaho, come closer and we'll talk. So we both bow our heads and he goes into this prayer. About a 2-minute prayer. He got about a minute into it when at very close range, I kid you not, and my wife's going to kill me. You might want to turn your volume down. Anyway, we get from out of nowhere, we get this.
Mm. Wow.
Does it 4 times.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it was 50, 60 feet away. And I kept my head down like a good prayer guy.
Mm-hmm.
My friend keeps going along, finishes his prayer about a minute later, and then when he hardly got amen out of his mouth, I go, was that them? And he goes, oh yeah, that was them. It worked. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you another thing that was weird, and we can leave it at this if you'd like. I did have my FLIR with me. I also had a video camera.
Mm-hmm.
For the life of me, even when I'm looking at these eyes in the woods, I could not pick up a heat signature.
That's so crazy. Which, that's what I wanted to ask you. I was like, and it's so funny that these native people have such a connection, with this. And do you think what their legend is true? I mean, do you think?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
Well,
do you believe? Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. Do you believe it's a supernatural being, or do you believe that it's a breathing, physical, organic thing like you and I?
What do I believe, or what do they believe?
What do you believe?
I believe we're dealing with a relic hominid species, not human,
Mm-hmm.
but in the same branch of humanoid or hominid.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been some discoveries, not of too old, that
Mm-hmm.
of new species of human or,
Right.
or hominid, such as the Homo florensis on the island of
The tiny
Flores.
people, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
They called them hobbits. They found one that was like 3.5 feet high, and when they did the study on it, found out it was fully grown.
Right.
And then since then, they've found a number of others. I mean, we haven't even found not just all the species out there, but not even all the human species
That's true.
or hominid species. We're still now we're learning Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal interbred. We thought there was a big gap between them.
Yeah, exactly.
You look at the dispersion of said wild men, if you will, or forest giants. You've got the Yowie in Australia. In
Yowie, yeah.
China, you got the Yeren, you've got the Almasty, and
The Yeti.
in Russia, the Yeti in Nepal or in the Himalayas,
Mm-hmm.
or as Peter likes to call the Himalayas, but he would know. he lived there for like 20 years. Well, even here locally in Nebraska, they call them Satonga.
Tatanka, right?
Sitonga.
Tatonga. Okay.
And Alaska, when I went up there and did some investigating, I happened to meet and just really happenstance meet and have become friends with a Inupiat chief
Hmm.
of a Eskimo tribe up there.
Oh wow.
And he says we call them Kushtakas.
Hmm.
And so here's the thing. When I first saw what I saw, I went straight to a library and checked out every book they had lent me on the subject. I wanted to know the newest, latest, greatest technological information on these things that I saw.
Right.
And in very short order, I started doing the math and I went, hang on a minute. We've been here less than 300 years. When I say we, I mean Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Native Americans have now been dated back here in North America 19,000 years.
Right.
300, 1900. Who do you think
Yeah, has more knowledge.
the most information? I mean, it's not even close.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
When you put it in those terms, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely
who
right.
has had to live symbiotically through millennia
Right.
side by side with these things than the Native Americans?
Yeah.
And you'll find if you do the research, you'll find almost every tribe in this country has got a different name for them, whether it's Skookum or Bakwas or Dasanaquah or Oma or Istiaha, you name it. Almost every tribe has their own name, but ironically, it describes the exact same.
It's the same legend.
creature.
It's the same legend. Yeah.
And I think to a degree, worldwide.
Yeah.
I'm going to focus. Yeah.
Yeah, you can only
but-
focus so much on where you're at. I understand. Yeah, listen,
Yeah.
you can only do so much. Jay, do you have any follow-up questions? Any last questions for Todd while we have him?
No, I think we've covered quite a lot of ground for the evening. I got some pretty good answers. I think I'm going to do a little more research.
One last question that I have personally, that if I'm going to play devil's advocate in any of this,
Sure.
is the proliferation of video cameras and game cameras that we have now. We have video cameras that we've never had before, where we could, leave them there for days. They can record for days. We've never had that before. Question to you is, and I know you probably already know where I'm going with this, is that we've got the Patterson-Gimlin footage, right? But why isn't there any other kind of footage out there that's similar to that, or if not better, even with the technology that we have today? Is it because the IQ of these species, or what's your excuse? What's your explanation to that?
Well, in a word, odds. But I will have to back up a little bit in saying that while some people claim that not only do they detect these things, they see them and somehow know what their function is, which I don't believe, and for that reason avoid them. Again, I'm not there. With all these different camouflage patterns and stuff they have for those, and now the stealth IR that really doesn't put out a bright beam. I even struggled with the idea that they can see them.
Right.
Or sense them. Remember I told you I got chased by a grizzly up in British Columbia?
Yeah.
I put together a expedition known as Operation Sea Monkey.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to ask you about. But yeah, go ahead.
So we took a trawler, a 50-foot trawler, and a couple Zodiacs on a 140-mile round trip into what's called the Broughton Archipelago, which is a cluster of literally over 100 islands, mostly small islands, a few big islands. And we would anchor offshore a different island every afternoon. We would take the Zodiacs ashore, put up game cams and seismic ground sensors, and then we would monitor through the night these beaches, because my bush guide told me, you got to go now because this is when the clam tides come in. This is late September, early October. This is when the clam tides come in. This is when my people for thousands of years have harvested clams. And don't fool yourselves. The bear, the wolf,
Mhm.
the Bigfoot, they are all aware of this food source just underneath the sand.
Mhm.
And this is when you need to go. So our objective was one more of a scouting mission for future expeditions where we could stay for 3 months, an entire summer up there.
Right.
But it was also our way of trying to validate this
Mhm.
clam tide deal, and so on the last day, the last evening, I had asked the captain if he could find me on an island that's got a river coming off it. I'm thinking there may be fish runs, it may bring in the Bigfoot. We still keep close to shore, but at the mouth of this river where it dumps into the sound, and we got to shore in an unusual fashion. There were 5 of us in the Zodiac.
Mhm.
4 of us were to be dropped off, with the bush guide staying in the Zodiac. The approach to the island is extremely shallow. I mean, it's like 3 feet deep, about 100 feet out.
Mhm.
So rather than trying to drop us way the hell out there, there was a man-made jetty that was about 8 feet tall that somebody had built on one side of the mouth of the river.
Mhm.
So our guide drops us off on the jetty, and we pack all of our gear till we got to the beach and jumped off the jetty. And as soon as we did, here are these tracks bigger than a dinner plate.
Mm.
I mean, they looked like dinosaur tracks. I'd
Wow.
never seen tracks that big in my life of anything.
Huh.
And well, I'd put Bigfoot in that category, but they're different. I mean, these were just amazing, and
Were you
smaller
able to
ones.
take cast of any of those impressions? Or
Are
anything
you
like
kidding me? As soon as we got on a beach, I said, guys,
that?
number
That's a
one,
stupid question.
I said, we're not alone. Number 2,
Yeah.
let's get those cameras up and get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
So we're out there. And I said, stick close, not too far inland, because this river was blocking our movement anywhere to the west, which meant we had to go either upriver or into the forest or over that jetty to the other side of the beach. So I don't know if you know who Gunnar Monson is, but he runs the Sasquatch Coffee Company. Anyway,
Mhm.
he also runs a podcast. And anyway, he had the radio, and Tom Seawood, who's a published author out of Canada and a researcher, was with us, and then my cameraman. And they just got the second camera up when over the radio comes the captain.
Mhm.
He says, hey, how's it going? Gunner goes, oh, it's going pretty good. We got 2 cameras up. We just need to get a seismic ground sensor in. Oh, very good, very good. Say, who's got the shotgun?
It's a rather odd question, but
Crickets.
right.
And he goes, niece, why? And he goes, yeah, you might want to load it. There's a bar coming. So 2 things struck me. 1, there's a bar coming, and 2, you might want to load it. I'm like,
Right.
I thought it was loaded. So I open up the breech on this 12 gauge, and it's empty.
Oh Lord.
Well, in my pocket, I had one of those zippered bank bags, where they'll put money and coins in, the little vinyl
Mhm.
bags.
Yeah.
I remember the bush guide gave me this bag full of shells. So I'm like, I'm walking around like G.I. Joe. I got this unloaded shotgun. Anyway, so I immediately I open the bag and I look in there, and all these shotgun shells from being on the boat in saltwater are rusted to hell.
Oh no.
You got the plastic tube with the little brass part? Well, there was no brass part. It was all crusted
Oh,
rust.
useless.
So I go in and I'm trying to jam this directly into the breech, and I can't get the breech to lock. I finally, after about 10 times, I finally got it to lock. And then I just fed the tube with everything I had left, not even knowing if the first one's going to go off. And if it does, if I'm even going to be able to extract it and get another one in.
Right. Yeah.
So I figured I got one shot at most. So, of course, being the expedition leader, everybody's looking at me. They're like, their eyes are as big as saucers. Like, what do we do? I'm like, okay, I think I saw this on Nat Geo one day. Let's all spread out and make lots of noise. Now we know somewhere on the other side of the jetty, which we're not tall enough to see over,
Right.
is a full-size male grizzly heading our direction. So but we have no idea how close it is. And that jetty is our extraction point.
Mm-hmm.
So one way or the other, we either got to get to that jetty or jump in the river and hope it carries us out to sea and grizzly doesn't follow.
Right.
So again, I tell them, let's spread out and make noise.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay. So we spread out, and we're all just walking like gunslingers in the OK Corral, chink, chink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's in a hurry to get to that jetty because we don't know how close that bear is.
Right.
I said, Gunner, get on the horn and ask him, for an update on the bear. So he gets on. Hey, this is Gunner. Can I get an update on the bear? And their response was unbelievable. They came back with, hey, we're trying to film the bear. Radio silence out. Now, in that 5-second, we're trying to film, you could have said 100 yards
Right.
in less than half that time. You could have said 300 yards. Put our mind at ease. Instead, we're like faced with, okay, they're out there filming this grizzly for what? The next National Geographic meets Faces of Death sequence.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
So we're still so I'm like, guys, we need to make noise. So, somebody make noise. Well, I can't make this shit up. Tom Steenberg, bless his heart, suddenly starts belting out, the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities, forget about the Jungle Book song.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, we're not dealing with Baloo, really?
Yeah.
And we all just kind of stood there, and then all of a sudden, just out of nervousness, we all
Yeah.
started singing it too. And it helped calm us down a little bit.
Good. Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, we obviously survived.
There you go.
The bear was literally on the other side of the jetty, though, because when the Zodiac came around,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we're saved. And then Tom starts slapping the plastic console for the center steering deal
Right.
loud as he can. And I'm like, he ain't doing that for our benefit. He's just slapping as hard as he can. Then he stops and starts yelling in his native language of Kwak-Kwak-Ewok, which is
Right.
the truth. And he's yelling, and I'm like, later I asked him, what were you yelling at the bear? And he says, I was just telling him that we mean no harm and we don't want to have to kill you. I'm like, you threatened a grizzly bear
He threatened a grizzly bear.
with my life. Anyway,
Oh, man.
anyway, what's interesting is next morning,
Yeah.
went back to pick up the cameras and the seismic sensor.
Yeah.
And one camera was torn completely, ripped off of a tree.
Mhm.
The second camera was canted like 45 degrees.
Mhm.
Got some amazing video because we went back and looked at the SD RAM card on our computer on board
Mhm.
the trawler. Here's this, you're like watching this big sow, big grizzly strolling kind of, and then she stops and looks at the camera, and all of a sudden the picture starts going.
Mm.
We're like, something's messing with the camera.
Right.
Next thing you know, it comes around and you get the perfect shot that you never want to literally see, which is the mouth, inside of a grizzly bear's mouth as it's chomping on the camera.
There you go.
Rips it
What's for
down.
dinner?
jumps up and down on it and knocked the other one sideways. And then we got another really good shot of a timber wolf went through. We looked
Yeah.
at the date time. We looked at the date timestamp.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how long it took them to find to even detect those cameras
How long?
and tear them down? Less than 2 hours.
Oh, geez.
They didn't even last that long.
Wow.
And the first animals to come along,
Rips it apart and shreds it.
right?
Jumps on it, eats it.
So that kind of blew my theory of, oh, well, they don't see them because they're camouflaged. They
Right.
either smell them or they see them. I don't know, but
It's
so
amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
anyway,
Todd,
I do
mean,
think it comes down to odds. That's all. I'm just saying. It's just odds.
yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And listen, I mean, if there's anybody that would know, it'd be you. You've done this for so long. And what's next in the horizon for you, Todd? Before we let you go, what's next? What you have any big projects coming up? I know you just filmed something last year for Unexplained that came out earlier this year. I mean, what else do you have going on?
Let me check my calendar. So I've got a potential opportunity in June to work with filmmaker Stephen Majors
Oh, wow. Okay.
and along the Washington Canada border. Of course, I've got Beachfoot coming up right on the heels of that. That's 4 days
Right.
of good times. I've got another group that's talking about doing a mini series in Oklahoma, Louisiana,
Wow.
and one other state. They're talking about a mini series there. And I told you about this potential helicopter
Right.
lift up high.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
And who knows? I mean,
Well, no, it sounds like
thing will
you're.
start filling up. I'm already booking conferences next summer and
Yeah.
expeditions and whatnot. So it's really going to depend. I now that I've retired, I'm really seeing my research accelerate now that I can really devote myself to the effort. So
Yeah, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Now, which
but thank
is
you
a
for
big-
asking, and thank you for having me on. Really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a pleasure. And is there anywhere everybody can follow your stuff as well, Todd?
Okay, so my more than welcome to contact me directly at my email, which is American Primate. So the word American plus the word, well, PRIMATE
Hmm.
at AOL.com.
Okay.
We have a website for the American Primate Conservancy, which is americanprimate.org. You can kind of keep up with this there, although I need to get in there and update it. I have 3 Facebook pages I'll put out real quick. My personal one, just under
Please.
my name.
Yep.
There's an American Primate Conservancy page, as well as a Beachfoot page, and I would encourage your viewers to just go to the Beachfoot page and scroll through the photo gallery. Like I said, anybody in the field has pretty much been there 1 year, if not on
Yeah.
repeat visits, and it's a lot of fun. Oh, and I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you
Please.
this.
Please.
On YouTube,
Hmm.
for those who want to enjoy a pretty good video, actually, a friend of mine did a 10th anniversary Beachfoot video. It's on YouTube. Just look for Beachfoot, not Bigfoot, but Beachfoot
Hmm.
10th anniversary, and I would say bring some popcorn and Kleenex because
Yeah.
it's really well done, and it's really it really gives you a sense of the friendships that are built there, and
Well, we'll make
Yeah.
sure we'll put the links at the bottom of this,
Yeah,
this video
yeah,
here.
that'd be
Yeah,
great.
because everybody loves video, and especially if they can find out more information about it, which is a great event, by the way. It's a 3-4 day event on the beach over there in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, you guys do that every year. It's a great event, and yeah, I can't say more enough
14th
than
year now.
yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. It's amazing you guys been doing it for so long. But Listen, Todd, it's been a pleasure having you on Dark Fringe Radio. I implore everybody to follow all of your work. Again, we'll be putting all those links at the bottom of the page here
Thank you.
on the video. Yeah, absolutely. And once I have everything up and ready for you, I'll be sending you the links and everything like that. But in the meantime, Todd, listen, thank you so much for coming on Dark Fringe Radio.
Thank you so much.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you.
All right, you guys. You take care.
All right, Todd, take care. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Mr. Todd Neiss. Again, you can follow all of his work, all those websites that he mentioned there, and please make sure you follow all of his work and check out his latest episode on Unexplained. It was ran in February, so if you have a chance to, have the Discovery Channel or the History Channel on demand, you can find that. It was in February where they talked about Bigfoot, and great episode. So again, thank you, Todd Neiss, for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate that. And really appreciate all your expertise on the Bigfoot Sasquatch. So anyways, tonight, Jay, before we say goodnight, to everyone, we'll usually do a segment called What to Watch. And it's just a suggestion that you have, Jay, whether it be TV, film, or whatever it may be, to what to watch. And so what do you have this week for us for What to Watch?
I'm going to bring us all the way back to the classic 1987 comedy. So appropriate for this week. Harry and the Hendersons.
Wow. John Lithgow.
John Lithgow.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Look at me. See, I remember.
Look at you.
Yeah.
You knowing white people.
Listen, who's my best friend?
This is true. That's true.
I'm sorry.
I'm his best friend.
Right?
And I'm white as bread.
There you go. So, yeah. Harry and the Hendersons, John Lithgow. What a great movie. I forgot about that movie, man.
Great movie. Of course, starring not only John Lithgow, but the origins, the genesis of sports utility vehicles with his Jeep Grand Cherokee, wood paneled, station wagon, four-wheel
family mobile.
The family mobile.
Yeah.
But Harry and the Hendersons, great movie. Kids, for those of you who've never heard of it, it is a great movie about your normal suburban dad out.
Takes the family out for camping trip, right?
Across Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And somewhat adopting him.
Well, they run into him literally, right?
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. And then they take him in as a pet, right?
Yeah.
Or another family member, because they obviously become very attached to him.
I think that was kind of what made it funny was he kind of towed the line between is he a pet or is he a family member?
Right.
The missing link. So but great movie. Oh my God, great movie.
Yeah, very funny. Yeah, it's just very interesting.
I haven't seen it forever. I'm gonna go watch it tonight.
Yeah. Right. Harry and the Hendersons, man, that really brought it back for me, man. That's a great film. Great film. But Jay, that's a great one for What to Watch, man. I can't really debate that one. Again, I would implore also people to check out the Patterson Gremlin video. That was the original video, of course, of Sasquatch supposedly walking, and you see that video of him like looking back and all that shit. Yeah. So check it out. It's pretty interesting. I mean, I'm not completely convinced that was a true Sasquatch, but our guest that came on the podcast was convinced that it was, and thinks that it is a true Sasquatch. But check it out for yourself. The Patterson Gremlin video footage, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. It's very simple and easy to find, so check that out. But that's it for tonight, Jay. Thank you for that What to Watch, and I really appreciate it. And before we say goodnight, I just wanted to remind everybody again, you can follow us at Dark Fringe Radio on our social media. And of course, you can listen to our website or listen to our episodes on our website, at Dark Fringe Radio or darkfringeradio.com.
What about that Indian strain?
Yeah. You know what it is? My brain is moving faster than my mouth. And that's a problem sometimes. So,
is that what it is?
That's what it is. I already know.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
I'm surprised your brain can move at that speed.
Oh, wow.
No, I mean, no disrespect, my guy, because I know when I become in a compromised state that my brain speed
slows down.
Sluggish.
Yeah, not me. Mine goes like this. I'm like firing on all pistons.
Yeah, no. See, I need it to get my Pistons to misfire.
Oh yeah, no, I'm completely functioning when it comes to that. Like, like if we need to do something right now, we can do it right now.
Oh no, I'm not saying we can't do it. No, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
You misunderstand. I'm just simply saying my
The
brain
speed.
my brain puts its feet up and goes, "Whoa, man!
Yeah. Why are you
Whoa.
going that fast?
Why are we in a rush, guys? Why are we in a rush? Let's enjoy the journey.
Yeah, let's enjoy this.
Peace
Yeah.
be the journey."
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jay, that's it for this week's episode of Dark Fringe Radio.
Listen to our
Anything-
website.
Yes, listen through our website, darkfringeradio.com. Thank you, Jay, for that. And anything else to add for tonight before we say goodnight?
Nope.
There you go. All right. Well, listen, thank you, everybody, for listening in on another edition and episode of Dark Fringe Radio. We really appreciate our guest, Mr. Todd Neese, for coming on the podcast. And we appreciate you for listening to the podcast. And we'll see you guys again next week. See you guys then.
May.
Thank you for listening to Dark Fringe Radio, recorded in the Mephistopheles Studios. Any correspondence can be sent to thedarkfringe@gmail.com. Thank you again for listening.